Yeah, welcome everyone, and we have Desh Kapoorji again here with us with a very interesting session today. And welcome, Deshji.
Thank you. Welcome. Thank you so much, Dev. Thanks for calling me again.
Yeah, so coming to the first piece of news, and the latest news is Asim Munir has issued fresh threats against India. This is coming amidst when Pakistan has bombed Afghan civilians, and what's more is that members of the Afghan cricket team were killed in Pakistani airstrike in Paktika province. And the Afghanistan Cricket Board has said that the players have traveled from Urgun to Sharana in the eastern Paktika province. So all this is, Pakistan is bombing the hell out of Afghanistan, and Afghanistan is also sort of, in a way, attacking back, isn't it?
Right. Exactly. And I think, see, the thing is, we have to realize that uh, Pakistan, like we have been discussing earlier on, keeps thinking that Afghanistan is actually its backyard all the time, and this is the kind of narrative that has gone on for a long time. So basically, what has happened is that in terms of the experience of Afghanistan, for them the forces and the flags may have changed, but the ideology has not changed. See, earlier on it was British. Do you remember that movie Kesari, where Akshay Kumar was there and there were Battle of Saragari, which was shown there, where I think 300 odd Sikhs actually defended against almost 10,000 Afghan forces or tribesmen. Now, generally, it is shown as, and it was a real act of bravery from the Sikh soldiers, and it is shown as if the Afghanis, the Afghans were attacking the British or India, but that was not true. Like what was happening was actually the British were trying to actually take over Afghanistan, and it was a Sikh regiment which was fighting. Now we have to remember, as much as we, today's Sikh regiment is one of the glorious, regiment. But in those days, actually, the Sikh regiment within, the British Army was actually aligned with the British and against India. 1857, not many people will remember that, but 1857, actually, the Sikh regiment fought alongside British against the Indian revolutionaries. So since then, like if you take the Battle of Saragari as the as an example of how the British actually were trying to take over Afghanistan and push like anarchy there, the same thing has followed. In 1973, actually, Ziaul Haq, sorry, not Ziaul, Zulfikar Ali Bhutto. Bhutto had actually created a Afghan desk under the PMO, and the idea was to actually go ahead and take over Afghanistan. And the reason why they did it was because Daud Khan, who had taken over the reins there, he actually said he actually talked about a unified Pakhtunistan, because he talked about unified Pakhtunistan. And when you look at the Pakhtunistan and the Balochistan, you will realize that that is almost like 40 to 50% of their entire land. So they were really scared, the Pakistanis. So Bhutto actually set up the desk to create anarchy there. Now, the way he would try to do that is because Daud, who became the president there, was aligned with the Soviets. So he started the Islamist movement, where the terror training camps, or in those days it was freedom camps as they would call it, were actually located in Peshawar. Later on, the US piggybacked on that and created the entire Afghanistan terror jihad network that they created. So it was not that US first came in and set it up and then Pakistan picked it up. No. Pakistan was the one which created it first, and then US piggybacked on that. So they use Islamism to actually hurt Afghanistan because they had talked about Pakhtunistan. Now the same thing is going on now. Like, it has not stopped since then. You know, they these guys, are the Pakistanis or the ISI. They brought in the other ethnicities also within Afghanistan and the entire jihad, movement, whether it was Tajiks or Uzbeks. Dostum was Uzbek, and there were Tajiks. Ahmad Shah Massoud was actually an ethnic Tajik. So they brought in the other ethnicities in Afghanistan's entire jihad network only to downgrade the Pashtuns there. Now, after all this thing has been cleared up and Taliban has come up, they are again trying to talk about the Pakhtuns across, both the sides. Now, again, Pakistan is in the same position. So, so this entire war needs to be looked at it from a broader angle of why Pakistan is actually trying to do this, right? And because really speaking, there is no sane reason for Pakistan to be doing what they are doing in Afghanistan. The only reason is because they actually think that these guys are, some kind of their, slaves, and they can do whatever the heck they want. And, fortunately or unfortunately for the Pakistanis, they have, like you were showing, they have a prime minister like Shehbaz Sharif and a guy like Asim Munir. Both of them are, almost like slaves in front of the Americans, and they would do anything. So it has created a lot of strange situation. And Khwaja Asif, who the defense minister is, like, he has been saying that we can fight a two-front war. What he does not realize is that they are actually fighting a four-front war. It's not just a two-front war. So there is an internal, like war going on in Lahore and the other places. There is a war with Afghanistan. There is a war with Balochistan, and then there is a war with India that they have created. If they think they can fight all the four wars at the same time, they can't even fight one war. Against India, all their air bases were totally destroyed, and all they did was, they keep on saying, "Oh, we actually, hit the Rafales." Like, we all know it wasn't like that, because like it was a decoy that they had actually hit, and they keep on thinking that's what they did. So it goes to their old narratives about 1965, 1965 war, 1971 war, and 1948 war, the Kargil. Every time they have lost, every time they have created narratives for their own purposes. Now they are trying to do the same thing with Afghanistan. They cannot succeed because Afghanistan is really taking a toll. Because, see, as far as India is concerned, India's army is very disciplined. India's establishment is very disciplined in the way what they were doing. When Balakot was attacked, there was a very specific, very precise kind of ammunition which was sent. When India attacked the air bases, it was very, very precise. No civilian casualty happened. But Afghanistan is not like that. There was a bomb blast in Islamabad. After that, there was a suicide bomber. So those things will happen because they are the ones who have been trained by the Pakistan ISI, and they know exactly how these guys think. So they will respond in kind. So I think it's a very, like, I know I've heard there's a professor, Dr. Muqtadar Khan, who's in the US. He was very disappointed that two Muslim nations are trying to fight with each other. Like, what such people do not understand is that, this idea of Islamic Brotherhood has never happened. never ever happened. Whether it was like Mir Qasim, Mir Jafar, whether it was after that, sultans and the Mughals and the like rest of the guys, they were always beating and killing each other. That's how they always were. Whether it was Shah Jahan being killed by Aurangzeb or whoever it was, like it was always like that. So this idea that they have created, this rhetoric and this imagination that they have, that just because you have the same kind of belief that everything will be hunky dory, and because there is somebody else out there on the other side who does not believe the same way, like he has to be bad, is something that they have to get rid of. Because right now, India has been more disciplined in the way they attack Pakistan than Afghanistan will ever be. They will go ahead and do whatever the heck they want, and it won't be a pretty fight. And the same goes for the Balochis. So they have gotten themselves into a very like interesting situation for themselves. So that's what I would say about what's going on there and how I think it would proceed further.
Yeah, if you jog back down history, even Osama bin Laden, who had the Al Qaeda, he was linked to the CIA, right? Like that was huge, allegation on that.
Right. And like if you look at it serious, like historically also, like whether it was the Muslim Brotherhood that is there, it was actually started by, when it was started, it was in 1920s, I think. Like that's like when it was started. And the seed money was actually given by the British, the MI6, to Egypt for the Suez Canal. But part of that was also to create the Muslim Brotherhood. So they started it, and later on, the Nazis actually took it over. They wanted to use the Muslim Brotherhood to fight the Russians. And the way they were doing it is all the ethnicities, the Islamic ethnicities within the Russian Empire, which became Uzbeks and Tajiks and other nations, they were trying to recruit them. When the Nazis lost, and the first Munich, mosque in Munich was created around that time when the Nazis were there. When the Nazis lost, at that time, the West German intelligence and the CIA took over the entire project, and they created, the Radio Liberty, which was recently, in news because of what Trump was trying to do with it, because they were hardcore left now. Earlier on, they were actually a project of the CIA, because like, they were trying to recruit the Islamists, within the Soviet Union. So this Muslim Brotherhood project started from MI6, went to the Nazis, then went to the CIA, and that's how it has gone forward. In 1963, these same Muslim Brotherhood people, Saeed Ramadan and the rest of the folks, were actually hosted by President Eisenhower in Oval Office, and that's the truth. And like because they were being used, this Saeed Ramadan was the one who actually sat in Pakistan for many years, making sure that that Pakistan became an Islamic republic. He ensured that, and he used to be working alongside, this Muhammad Iqbal, or the Allama Iqbal, like as the Pakistanis call them, they call him, and he was trying to create a bridge between Hassan al-Banna in Egypt, who became the jihadi fountainhead in Egypt, with the jihadi fountainhead in Pakistan, who was Muhammad Iqbal, and then Maulana Maududi. So that's how these guys have created this entire jihadi network. So yes, it is true that even Osama bin Laden was actually earlier on an experiment of the CIA, and that's how it has always gone. So it's a very interesting history that they have.
Yeah, especially if you think about the Twin Tower bombing, how the planes, just the coordination. It was like something was amiss, right? And it's still today's a mystery, isn't it?
Yeah, like there's a interesting, I had written about this earlier on my newsletter that like what I'm trying, like going to say now is actually recorded in CNN, Guardian, and other newspapers. I'm surprised that nobody has really talked about it. The fact is that in June of 2001 or like somewhere around that, the ISI chief, Lieutenant General Mahmood, actually used Daniel Pearl's killer, Omar Syed, whom India had let go during that IC 814 hijacking. He used Omar Syed to wire $100,000 to Muhammad Atta, and Muhammad Atta shared that entire 100,000 with the other hijackers. And this is a recorded thing in like CNN, archives as well as the Guardian. I'm not making it up. And then 2 days before, so you have to understand the trigger that was there. In June, Ahmad Shah Massoud, who had actually driven out the Soviets, he had gone to Brussels and he met with a CIA handler and he told him, he said, if something happens to me, you can be rest assured that something very major is going to happen on the US soil. So he was assassinated on September 9th, 2001, and then September 11 happened. So 2 days before, like obviously when Ahmad Shah Massoud was probably killed, they actually collected all the money together, like which was still left, and wired it back to Omar Syed. This was the strangest thing. So it's not like the CIA could not have checked the entire money transfer that was happening or didn't know about Muhammad Atta and things like that. The strange thing is the day the 9/11 happened, and actually, earlier on, I also had taken the screenshots of, the meeting, this thing schedule. The ISI chief, Mahmood, was actually in New York meeting CIA. And it was actually, for some strange reason, that entire meeting schedule was on public, internet. And like I was not trying to like make this up or do like some secret kind of like sourcing or research. It was right there. Like I just typed and it came up, and I had made a screenshot. Unfortunately, I think I changed my like my platform for the blog, so like it might have gotten lost, but I still remember that. And that was all there. So I don't know what was going on, but something was there which was amiss, and people have not talked about that.
Yeah. So coming to the present, I'm sure you must have seen the Gaza Peace Summit in Sharm el Sheikh, and the and it was quite funny that Trump said that hope India and Pakistan can stay together and live together happily, and then he looked back and he saw Shehbaz Sharif, and he said, "Right." And Shehbaz Sharif was put on the spot, and he had all the strange facial emotions in his face and all those things. Did you manage to see that press conference where he
Yeah,
was like a he was like a high school principal? He's asking where's the prime minister of Britain? Where is he? Where is he? And then it was kind of hilarious.
yeah, it's like he actually says, "Where is UK?" Like he
Yeah.
didn't
Yeah.
even
Oh, yeah. Right. Right. Right.
call his name. So where is UK? And he came up thinking that he will not talk on the microphone. He just said, "Okay, you're good to see you here," and then he sent him back. And it was such a strange situation, and the British are actually seething with anger right now, the way they have been dealt with. But they are the ones who have to be blamed themselves because of the way they have handled them, their entire situation, and especially with Donald Trump. They are a dying power. They are a dying nation. They have no future whatsoever. In fact, uh, JD Vance actually said that they might be the first Islamist republic with the nukes. And the what you are showing here, how Meloni actually reacted, I think, like like at the end of the day, the most interesting feature of that entire conference was Meloni, because the way she was actually reacting to everything, and she was giving the subtext of how the things were going on. And Shehbaz Sharif, the you know the slave that he is and the Pakistanis are, like, that's what he was trying to do. He was trying to find favor with him, not realizing that he is talking to a vain person, and that's how he'll be treated going forward. So it's really sad the way Trump is handling that, because he's creating enemies. He has he is creating enemy out of Britain when it is not required, when it is really not required. I mean, it is a forced enemy creation. He has done the same thing with India. He has done same thing with so many other nations when he did not need
China.
to do that. Yeah, China, like, as well. And with the way he's handling the Europeans, the way he talks to them and deals with them. So I think 50 years from now or 100 years from now, when the commentary and the analysis is done of this era, they'll find this one man who actually changed the world in so many different ways and created so many fissures that will be so difficult to to close going forward, because this will lead to some kind of big battle. Like, it will not subside, because now he's there for 4 years and they can't will that away. During those 4 years, the way he is going, he can actually do a lot, and he has done a lot. So I think like, it's just, and like, JD Vance is another strange person. The way he was talking about the German scientists who have come in, and the other servants who came, as if the Indians are servants here. They are the ones who have worked so hard, and most of NASA is full of them. So I think they're hell bent on the only the only way I can describe it is that they are hell bent on destroying the United States of America, because there is no other explanation that I've been able to find here. Because, like, if you break the Atlantic understanding, the transatlantic understanding that they had with Europe, if you break all the um, the the links with the ethnicities, the migrants who are coming and actually enriching. So it is, the Indians are not even illegal; they are legal immigrants. They are one of the richest. They give the most taxes. They actually, like, buy the most houses right now. Like, if you look at all the suburbs, they spend more than any other ethnicity, like, is concerned in Costco and like other like large retailers. Costco actually now has specific products for Indians. Pani puri, like, boxes and other ghee, like, it is selling, and other things. So there has to be some reason why they were doing it, right? So to actually demean that kind of ethnicity is to hurt your own self. Like, it is not somebody else. So I just think we are at a cusp of a very, very interesting situation in the world history right now. That's all I would say. And how they are dealing with. Pakistan is a gone country. Pakistan is a fallen country. It has no future. It has no present. And if they really look at it, it really had no history as well. So that kind of country is the one that they are trying to prop up. Like, it is almost like a dying rabbit they are holding up and saying, okay, you know what, like, this guy will fight the battle for us. There's no rhyme and reason for that. There's no rationale for that. They have been defeated badly. So they'll like, I think, like, India has realized this. Afghanistan has realized this. Like, I think they will just go and do whatever the heck they want to do. All that, Saudi Arabia's mutual agreement that, like, if the war is on them, it is like on us, and things like that. that has been rendered useless. We all know now, and that is how it will go going forward. So, I think it's a like we are just seeing the dismantling of Pakistan happening right in front of our eyes.
Yeah, also the fact that in Pakistan the economy is in serious trouble, and it's not long before people come out on the streets protesting, because of the inflation in Pakistan.
Right, they're already doing it in Lahore and other places. I mean, yes, they were Tehreek Labak of Pakistan, TLP, but the thing is that whatever has happened with that is the Islamist side of things. But the economic side of things, as you are saying, still has to happen. That is going to be even bigger than the Tehreek Labak of Pakistan, TLP.
Right. Also, the next point is U.S. singer Mary. She hit out at Congress leader Rahul Gandhi for his recent remarks against Modi, asking him to return to his "I Hate India" tour. And Milburn praised Modi, and the Congress leader does not possess any acumen to become the PM of India. Also, this is with respect to the fact that Donald Trump said that Prime Minister Modi has, agreed to stop buying Russian oil, and and this is the based on that is this remark. So this remark of Donald Trump saying that Modi has agreed to stop buying Russian oil, and then the Indian government clarified that the Indian consumer is always number one, and they have to diversify the sources.
Right. See, the thing is, the whether we go for Russian oil or India doesn't go for Russian oil, that is something that they deal on a transactional basis, right? And as far Russia's Russia and India's a link is concerned, that will always be there. That won't go away because of how things are. In my last newsletter, I was like, dwelling upon the thing that, when Modi ji went for the SCO summit, at that time, how Modi ji kept sitting, first, Putin actually waited for Modi ji for 10 minutes. He kept standing outside because he wanted to actually take Modi ji in his car. And when he took him in his car, he reached the venue of the conference, and there they both kept sitting for 45 minutes in the car and not coming out. That is a very, very serious, a diversion from the normal protocol. It is not normal. Why would they do that? Why would Putin actually do that to him? The only reason, one can find is that maybe what happened to Shastri ji in Tashkent was being planned for Modi ji in Tanjin. So Putin, being who he is, an ex KGB chief, he knew the kind of response that situation would require, and he took him like in protection until the time that he knew that situation had been resolved. The Chinese were in turmoil, obviously, because it was on their soil. But somebody was trying to do something which was quite similar to what happened in Tashkent with Shastriji. So as far as Putin is concerned and Modi ji is concerned, they both know what they need to do. Sometimes, like a daily and the news cycle that goes on, hourly news cycle that goes on, that does not capture the total breadth of where the things are. So as far as India and Russia is concerned, it is like quite tough to actually break that kind of a relationship. See, I've been recently I've written another newsletter where I laid it out. See, in 1995, Russia's GDP was 1335, 1335. today per capita GDP at that time it was 1335. Today that per capita GDP is 14,000. This is after all these years of sanctions and all these years of taking away the money and things like that. And in 1992, their army and their weaponry had been totally dilapidated. It was very bad shape. Today, their entire missile system is probably the best in the world. There is no, West does not have a way to handle their Satan 2 and the Oreshniks. They just cannot do that. That is where they have reached. Had Putin been in any other era or any other country, he would have been hailed as one of the greatest leaders of all time, because it is not a joke about what he's doing. And like some people would say that he's an autocrat within Russia. The kind of threats that like Russia has in terms of totally dismantling it and attacking it, that has been happening since 1990 onwards, by Soros or by US aid or by US in the West, whether Minsk agreement or like anything else, they had to be like that. So when you look at the whole situation completely, I feel this goes beyond just the normal trade. It is not trade here and there that will matter. But like if like people think that's what really matters, like Rahul Gandhi, and I think Mary Bilibin has been quite you know uh, like quite like emotionally attached to India and specifically to PM Modi. So I think, and her voice is quite good because like she's a renowned singer and all that, and her comments really make a lot of a lot of power, carry a lot of power with it. So I would say, I think like everybody knows who Rahul Gandhi is. He is actually just a joker, and people just don't give a damn about him, like outside India, except as a nice toy which can create subversion in India. That's all he is, and even that he's not efficient.
Yeah. So there's one comment: how far a war-engaging country can run without financial backup? Yeah, I think he's talking about Pakistan.
Pakistan. I think they are getting the financial backup. That's what Trump is trying to do through, all the crypto deal that he has been doing, and the money that is coming through IMF. You remember they had done 45 billion-dollar of deal that they were going to, IMF was going to send there during the war. Operation Sindoor, they had done 1.2 billion-dollars for Northwest Frontier Province tourism. Who the heck would ever go to Northwest Frontier Province for tourism? I have no idea. But they were, they have those kind of silly pretexts. World Bank actually sent 1.2 billion-dollars for that. So all that money will be coming, in terms of grants and all that, until like it is just too much for them even.
Yeah. Do you think the US will help Pakistan take over Bagram airbase?
They're trying. Their intent is to actually keep beating up Afghanistan so much, and that like Afghanistan actually falls and has nothing left there. Like if they can keep bombing them, so that like US can later come in and say, okay, I am like taking over the Bagram base. That's their plan. I think it's a very silly plan, and silly plan in the sense that to bomb Afghanistan and hope that Afghanistan will fall, and you can just go in quietly and take over a part of that. I think it's fool's paradise.
Yeah, I really don't understand what Donald Trump is doing to do with respect to India. He says that PM Modi is a fantastic leader. You know, India is a fantastic country, and all those things. And then he says like Modi should stop buying Russian oil, or else his political career could take a hit, and all those things. So what exactly is he playing?
Yeah, he's trying to seem like a good person, but in the sense of being very friendly with Modi ji and all that. But his the issue is that he cannot stop the things that he has set in motion with respect to Pakistan, and he's constantly bringing them on the stage and platforming them everywhere, whether it's the Oval Office or this Gaza Peace Summit. So everywhere he's giving them a podium and a mic to actually say whatever the heck they want to say. So that's where they are. So I think, like, in that sense, I would say that it's a very a sad situation, like where Trump is, because he wants to go whole hog, but he cannot, because and the same thing with China. Like when he wants to go whole hog against China, he cannot, because he suddenly realizes that the rare earth metals are gone. A Raytheon CEO says that most of our military is actually like made in China. Most of the military weapons and things like that. And China has 200 times shipbuilding capability than the US has. They're far, far, far ahead. One shipyard in China makes more ships in a year than entire shipbuilding of US combined. That's how far ahead they are. So to it is so intertwined. As far as US is concerned, for China, it may not be so intertwined. So they are not able to decouple themselves from China. And whenever he thinks he can put China down, he knows his limits. And I think within the Indo-Pacific region, that's the same thing with India. So there is not much that he can push. As long as Modi ji is there, he cannot really do anything of his own within India.
Yeah. Also, the last point, Deshi, is that Rahul Gandhi, the latest is that the trial in the defamation case against Rahul Gandhi over his remarks about V.D. Savarkar formally began on Friday with V.D. Savarkar's grandnephew and complainant Satyaki Savarkar deposing before a special court. An advocate, Sangram, representing him, said that part of Satyaki's chief examination was recorded during Friday's proceedings. In his statement, Satyaki detailed his family background and explained how he came across an online video of Rahul Gandhi's speech delivered in London in March 2023. In that speech, Rahul claimed that V.D. Savarkar wrote about the beating up a Muslim man with friends and feeling pleased about it in his book. Satyaki informed that the quote about the video, including the date of the speech and the duration of the clip. So you have this case going on.
He has already lost one case, like with respect to RSS, and he had to apologize when he said RSS was the one who assassinated Gandhi when they weren't. And now he started this again because, like, it is ingrained in the Congress DNA. They think they were the ones who actually gave India freedom. They did not. Veer Savarkar and RSS folks were actually very strongly intertwined in terms of how India got its freedom. No, Veer Savarkar was in India House, right? Like India House was in London, where all the revolutionaries were there. He was there from 1906 to 1909. People like Madan Lal Dhingra and even Madam Kama and all those people were inspired by him. Madan Lal Dhingra was the one who inspired Bhagat Singh. So Bhagat Singh and Veer Savarkar were very good friends. People, the problem with Congress and the left is that they have tried to create their own narrative about everyone. And their issue is that they have never, presented the real history. In 1910, I think it was, when Savarkar actually, he went to, uh, like he was being arrested, like he was going in a ship, and he like knew that like he was going to be arrested. So when it came that the ship actually came to France, he jumped off the ship and swam all the way to France to seek asylum. That was called like Marseille, that area, or that city. Unfortunately, the French actually gave him back to the British, and then he was sent to Andaman, for Kalapani. Now the situation is that actually at that time, that that issue, or like as they used to call it, the Savarkar affair within France, became so big that it was the leftists, all the socialists and the leftists, who actually sided with Savarkar there. Savarkar actually translated Mazzini's autobiography in Marathi. So Savarkar was not really the one who ever called for two nation theory. In fact, he did not. He was, there was another person, I don't remember his name. He was actually, during that time in India House, he was pushing for, the breakup between the Hindu and Muslims, and Hindus working alone. Veer Savarkar actually said that that won't be good for India. It was only when there was a consistent rhetoric from the Islamists. It started with Sayyid Ahmad Khan in around 1888 and 1890, where he said that Muslims were actually a separate nation, and from Hindus, and they cannot coexist. That was his statement. Then Iqbal in 1930 actually formalized that in terms of territorial vision of Pakistan. Savarkar talked about that in 1937, when he said it was almost like a fait accompli, that like there was no other way out. Like this was it. Like we can't run away from the truth, right? So that's where the whole like situation came about, where like he said, well, now like we need to move forward. And the thing is that he was a realist. He was not trying to do a separatism there, because in terms of chronology, when you look at it, Sayyid Ahmad was the person who called for Muslim separatism. Congress was doing the appeasement at that time, and the Islamic political leaders were like trying to harden all this entire thing. Only later Savarkar said, well, they already have separated psychologically from us. And if they have already identified as a separate nation, how can one nationhood ever be forced artificially? So it was not a call for separation. It was actually an acknowledgement of the separation that was going on. And all these guys were talking about it. So, so that's where it was. And so when actually Congress came in after independence, they tried to discredit everything that Savarkar or RSS or Hindus had ever done. So this kind of a, like whether it was Nehru who actually, under whose rule, like in like Maharashtra, after Gandhi's assassination, 8,000 Brahmins were massacred. And like one of the person who actually led that in terms of the political, responsibility was Yashwantrao Chavan, who's the first Maharashtra chief minister. And that's how it all like started. And like they never said sorry for that. During that those massacres, Veer Savarkar's brother was pulled out from his home and killed on the street, because that's how this entire Congress mentality is. They've not been able to get over that. They will never get over that, because they were never for India. They were never for Hindus. Like that's how they are.
Yeah. So, Desh, that was a fantastic session, and we will see you
Thank
again next week. Until then, Jai Hind and Jai Shri Ram.
Jai Hind, Jai Shri Ram. Thank you.